All right, strap in, everyone, because we are diving deep today.
Oh,
Head first into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
the MCU.
Exactly, the MCU. And specifically,
The Avengers.
yeah, the 2012 Avengers movie. Seems like you all are fascinated by this one. We've got a mountain of listener feedback on it.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Reviews, fan takes from IMDb, even some cool behind-the-scenes stuff.
It's interesting, right? You've got everything from folks calling it a masterpiece.
To those who say it's overrated or too formulaic.
It really runs the gamut.
And that's exactly why we're here. We're not just deciding if the movie is good or bad. We're trying to figure out why it became such a huge deal.
A phenomenon.
Exactly. A phenomenon. What worked, what didn't, and what does it tell us about superhero movies in general? I mean, we've got to start with the fact that this film was kind of a culmination of something much bigger, right?
Oh, absolutely. This wasn't some random idea that just popped into existence. Marvel very carefully, very deliberately laid the groundwork for a superhero team-up that honestly could have been a total disaster.
Right. You've got a Norse god, a billionaire in a metal suit, a super soldier who was literally frozen in time.
It sounds crazy when you put it like that.
It does. So how did Marvel pull it off? Where did it even begin?
Well, it all started with a tiny little moment, a post-credit scene in Iron Man back in, 2008.
Oh, yeah.
And back then, remember, those post-credit scenes were still kind of new. Nobody really knew what to expect. And then, bam, Samuel L. Jackson shows up as Nick Fury
I remember it vividly.
and drops that line about the Avengers Initiative. It was like the whole theater just went electric.
It was such a tease, right? Like a tiny window into this massive world they were building.
Exactly. And the brilliant thing is, Marvel didn't rush it. They took their time.
They gave us Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, Captain America, each with their own story, their own struggles.
It was like they were planting seeds, letting each hero grow individually before bringing them all together.
Building anticipation.
Exactly. It wasn't just a bunch of standalone films. It was like they were weaving this giant tapestry, each thread adding to the bigger picture. So by the time the Avengers actually arrived,
Everyone was already invested.
oh, the hype was unreal. It really felt like the culmination of a shared dream, you know? A dream that comic book fans had had for decades.
I love that you say shared dream, because even folks who criticize the movie admit that it kind of captures that feeling of seeing your favorite heroes together on the big screen,
Yeah.
fighting side by side.
Oh, without a doubt. And the guy they chose to bring that dream to life was pretty interesting, too. Joss Whedon.
Joss Whedon. Now, a lot of folks might know him best from his TV work, right?
Right.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Firefly.
He is a TV legend.
And I think that background is actually key to understanding what makes the Avengers tick.
Oh, I completely agree. See, Whedon was already a master at juggling huge casts of characters, weaving together complex storyline.
And let's not forget that signature Whedon humor. Oh, right. He always balances that humor with the high-stakes drama, which is exactly what you need for a good team-up movie.
And that's all over the Avengers, right?
All over it. Like that scene where all the heroes meet for the first time on the helicarrier.
On the what now?
Oh, sorry, the helicarrier. It's SHIELD's giant flying headquarters.
Oh, of course.
Anyway, that scene, you've got all this tension, suspicion even, but Whedon undercuts it with those perfectly placed jokes.
Reminding you that there's still people, even with all the superpowers and the world-ending threats and everything.
Exactly. But it's not all jokes and banter,
It's
right?
definitely not. The guy knows how to deliver those epic moments, too. I mean, one of the sources described that long, continuous shot of each Avenger fighting in the final battle as pure cinematic adrenaline.
Oh, yeah, that shot is incredible. It's action filmmaking at its best. But it's not just about the spectacle, it's about how Whedon uses it to visually represent the idea of teamwork.
Oh, I like that.
You see each hero using their unique abilities, but they're not doing it alone, they're working together. Iron Man's blasting through the air, Captain America's on the ground deflecting attacks, Thor's calling down lightning strikes, Black Widow's taking out enemies left and right, each one playing a specific role.
It's like a perfectly choreographed dance, but with way more explosions.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so satisfying. Now, speaking of characters, we got to talk about the fact that the Avengers had a lot of them.
6 main heroes, plus Nick Fury, Agent Coulson. I mean, that's a lot of personalities to juggle. Did Whedon manage to give everyone their due?
Well, that's where things get interesting. Because
Yeah.
some people argue that the film really showcased the strength of the ensemble, while others felt like certain characters got the short end of the stick.
Especially Hawkeye and Black Widow, right? Because they hadn't had their own solo movies yet.
Exactly. It's like trying to fit a whole symphony into a 3-minute pop song. You gotta make choices, and some instruments aren't gonna get the solo they deserve. So how did Whedon handle that? Well, he uses these clever little flashback snippets of dialogue.
To give them some backstory, to hint at their pasts.
Exactly. And while they may not get as much screen time as Iron Man or Captain America, they still play crucial roles. I mean, you could even argue that Black Widow is the one who ultimately saves the day, right? Closing the portal, stopping the alien invasion.
Wow, I never thought about it that way, but you're right.
She's the one who makes that final decisive move. So even if she's not always front and center, her actions have huge consequences.
It's like she's the secret weapon, the silent but deadly force.
Precisely. And that shows how good Whedon is at creating that sense of balance, even with such a massive star-studded cast. He understood that every hero, no matter how big or small their role, had to contribute to the overall story.
And speaking of the story, we got to talk about the villain, Loki, played, of course, by the amazing Tom Hiddleston.
Tom Hiddleston, yeah.
Now, you sent over a ton of reviews, and a lot of them single him out as a highlight. Why is that? What makes Loki such a good villain?
Well, for starters, he's not your typical, mustache-twirling bad guy.
Right.
He's not just evil for the sake of being evil.
He's got layers.
Layers, complexity. He's even, dare I say, a little bit sympathetic.
Really? You're going there? Because I've always seen him as pretty straightforwardly bad.
Oh, sure. He's definitely on the wrong side of things.
Charming, but bad.
But that's what makes him so interesting, right? He blurs those lines. Think back to his first appearance in Thor. He was more of a mischievous trickster then.
Sure.
But in the Avengers, we see him driven by this resentment, this thirst for power. It all stems from his relationship with Thor, his brother.
So it's not just about world domination for him. There's this deeper emotional stuff going on.
Right. He's a villain you can almost understand, even if you don't agree with his methods. And Hiddleston's performance is just phenomenal. He brings this perfect mix of arrogance, vulnerability, even a touch of Shakespearean grandeur.
Okay, I'm starting to see what you mean. He's not just a cardboard cutout bad guy.
Nope, he's a fully realized character, which makes his eventual defeat all the more impactful.
And that brings us back to why the Avengers became such a phenomenon, right? It wasn't just about the spectacle, although there was plenty of that.
Oh, yeah.
It was about the characters, their relationships, these themes of unity and sacrifice and responsibility. It was about hitting those deeper emotional notes.
Absolutely. It had something for everyone. But of course, not everyone loved it.
Right. I mean, look at all these IMDb reviews he sent.
Oh, yeah. There's a whole spectrum of reactions. Some call it a masterpiece, a comic book dream come true.
And others say it's predictable, formulaic, too reliant on CGI.
So how do we make sense of these totally different viewpoints?
Well, I think it's important to remember that no movie, no matter how good it is going to be universally loved.
Right. Different strokes for different folks and all that. Exactly. And even within those critical voices, there's a sense that the Avengers achieved something special. It brought this whole universe of characters to life in a way that felt familiar, but also new and exciting.
You know, it's like when you finally get to try that dish you've been craving for ages, sometimes the anticipation builds it up so much that the reality can't possibly live up to it.
Right. The hype gets out of control.
Exactly.
Okay.
But even if it's not the most revolutionary meal you've ever had, it can still be delicious.
Perfect analogy. I think that describes the experience of watching the Avengers for a lot of people.
It was a culmination of years of waiting, of building excitement. It was a feast for the senses, a chance to see these iconic heroes sharing the screen. So even if it didn't reinvent the wheel, it delivered on its promise.
Exactly. It entertained, it excited, it tapped into that love for superhero stories that so many people have. And that in itself is a pretty amazing accomplishment.
Okay, so before we get into the nitty-gritty of those fan reactions, the good and the bad, let's take a step back and appreciate what the Avengers did for the superhero genre as a whole. Because whether you loved it or hated it, this movie changed things big time. You know, when we talk about the Avengers changing things for superhero movies, it really did feel like it opened up a whole new world. It showed studios that you could take these individual stories and weave them into something larger, this interconnected universe. But I guess the question is, did that success come at a price?
That's the big question, right? Did it raise the bar, or did it kind of trap everyone in this one specific formula?
Exactly. Because on the one hand, the Avengers definitely inspired some more ambitious storytelling, these huge, sprawling narratives that we see all the time now. But then on the other hand...
Not everyone could pull it off the same way Marvel did.
Yeah, right. Like, everyone tried to copy the success, but not everyone really understood what made it work in the first place.
It's like that saying, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but sometimes the flattery just falls flat.
It does.
Yeah.
I think that's what led to some of that superhero fatigue that people talk about. Not that they stopped liking superhero movies altogether, but maybe they started craving something more, something that felt a little less predictable.
Yeah, I get that. Speaking of craving something more, we should probably dive into some of those fan reactions you sent over. Because even among the people who loved the movie, there were definitely some criticism.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, even if you enjoyed the movie overall, there were still things you could point to and be like, not sure about that.
Like the plot, for example. One of the most common critiques is that it felt a bit formulaic, even predictable.
I mean, it is kind of the classic villain wants to destroy the world, heroes have to team up and stop them story.
Yeah, it's a familiar structure. And maybe some viewers were hoping for something a little more innovative, a little more unexpected.
But on the other hand, one of the IMDb reviews literally called The Avengers a masterpiece for every comics fan in the world.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one. They were praising the character development, that sense of camaraderie between the heroes.
Exactly. And I think that's what's so interesting about this movie. It really does evoke such a wide range of reactions. For some people, it was like a perfect realization of their childhood dreams, seeing all these iconic characters together on screen.
Like stepping right into a comic book.
Exactly. But for others, maybe it didn't quite live up to the hype.
Which is understandable, right? When something is built up so much, it's hard for the reality to match those expectations.
And the hype for the Avengers was huge. By the time it came out, it was this massive cultural event. So even if the movie was objectively good, some people might have felt a little let down, just because it couldn't possibly live up to everything they imagined.
Right. Too much hype can be a bad thing.
Definitely.
Yep.
But even with those criticisms about the plot or the humor, there's still this consistent appreciation for the deeper themes of the movie.
The themes of teamwork, sacrifice, responsibility, those really resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah. One reviewer even said that the Avengers was like a celebration of heroism, a reminder that even when things are tough, there's always hope if we stand together.
I love that. And I think that speaks to why these superhero stories are so enduring, you know? They tap into this primal desire to see good triumph over evil, to see ordinary people rise to extraordinary challenges.
And in a world that often feels divided and uncertain, those themes of unity and responsibility are even more important, I think.
Definitely. The Avengers reminded us that we're stronger together, that even people with totally different viewpoints can find common ground when there's a bigger threat to face.
It's interesting, though, because some of the same people who praised the movie for its themes also criticized the reliance on CGI. But then you sent over another source that specifically praised the final battle in New York City, calling it a visual masterpiece and a dazzling display of special effects.
It's all about balance, right? CGI is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used well or poorly. In the case of the Avengers, I think the CGI mostly works. It helps create these epic, larger-than-life moments that you couldn't really do with practical effects alone.
Right. I mean, you've got Iron Man flying through skyscrapers, Thor summoning lightning strikes, Hulk smashing through aliens.
It's pure visual spectacle. But the important thing is that Joss Whedon knew how to use it effectively. He understood that CGI can't carry a movie on its own. It needs to be grounded in character, in emotion, in a sense of realism.
So it's not just about throwing a bunch of explosions and digital effects at the screen.
No, it's about using those things to enhance the story, to make the audience feel something. And I think the final battle in the Avengers does that really well.
You get those big explosive moments, but you also get smaller, quieter moments that remind you of the human cost of the conflict.
Like that scene where Captain America is rallying the firefighters to help evacuate civilians.
Oh yeah, I loved that scene.
It's such a small moment, but it says so much about his character, his unwavering belief in people.
And it's those little moments, those glimpses of humanity amidst all the chaos that really elevate the movie.
They make it more than just an action flick. It's a movie that makes you think, makes you feel, makes you believe in the power of heroism.
Even when the odds are stacked against you.
Absolutely. And it's fascinating how even those who criticize the movie for its predictable plot or its reliance on CGI still acknowledge its emotional impact. It seems like the Avengers really did connect with people on a deeper level.
It wasn't just about the spectacle.
No, it was about something more.
So maybe The Avengers wasn't a perfect movie, but it was definitely a powerful one.
It captured the imagination of millions of people, sparked countless conversations.
And left a lasting impact on the superhero genre.
Absolutely. And that legacy, well, that's something we'll be unpacking in the final part of our deep dive.
All right, so we've talked about where the Avengers came from. We dug into what the fans thought, good, the bad, and everything in between. Now for the big question. What kind of impact did this movie have on the world of film? Did it change things for the better? Or did it, like some people argue, kind of lock the superhero genre into this predictable formula?
Well, you gotta remember, before the Avengers came along, this whole idea of a shared cinematic universe was pretty much unheard of. Sure, you had franchises like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, but those were based on books that already existed.
They had a roadmap already.
Right, exactly. Marvel was starting from scratch, building this whole interconnected world from nothing.
And it was a huge risk, but it paid off big time.
Huge, not just financially, but creatively too. It opened up all these possibilities for storytelling, these massive narratives that could play out across multiple movies.
It's like they took the idea of a comic book series with all those ongoing storylines and crossovers and everything and brought it to life on the big screen.
Exactly, and that really resonated with people, especially those who grew up reading comics.
It was like seeing their childhood fantasies come true in a way that felt both familiar and totally new.
And it wasn't just about the spectacle either, although let's be honest, the spectacle was pretty amazing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But it was also about the characters, how they interacted, how their relationships evolved over time. That's what really hooked people.
But here's the thing, and this is where things get a little complicated. Did the success of the Avengers kind of create this template that other studios felt like they had to follow? Because after 2012, it seemed like everyone was trying to create their own shared universe.
And some of them felt a little less organic, a little more forced.
Like they were trying to chase the trend without really understanding what made it work in the first place.
It's like you can try to bake a cake by just copying the recipe, but if you don't know why certain ingredients work together, it's not going to taste as good.
So you're saying it's not enough to just throw a bunch of superheroes together and call it a day. You need more than that.
Yeah, you need that careful planning, that gradual buildup that Marvel did so well. You need to establish who the characters are, what they want, how they relate to each other.
You got to create a world that feels real, even if it's full of superpowered people and crazy technology and aliens.
Exactly, and I think that's where some of those other attempts at shared universes fell short. They focused on the surface stuff, the action, the special effects, but they forgot about the heart of the story.
Like they were trying to paint a masterpiece by just copying the brushstrokes without understanding the bigger picture.
That's a great way to put it. So it's not that shared universes are a bad thing inherently, it's just that they have to be done well.
They have to feel authentic, not forced.
If it feels like the characters are just being shoved into situations to set up the next movie, then it loses its magic.
And I think audiences can tell when something is genuine and when it's not.
Oh, they can definitely tell. Which brings us back to that question of the Avengers legacy. Did it ultimately help or hurt the superhero genre? It obviously had a huge impact, but was it a positive impact?
It's tough to say for sure, right? Because it's kind of a mixed bag.
Yeah, there are definitely arguments to be made on both sides. I mean, on the one hand, the Avengers showed everyone what was possible. It pushed the boundaries of what a superhero movie could be.
It was like I said, hey, these movies can be more than just popcorn entertainment. They can be smart, emotional, complex.
But on the other hand, its success also created a lot of pressure for other studios to try and replicate that formula, which led to a lot of imitators, some of which weren't very good.
So it's like the same thing that made the Avengers so groundbreaking also led to a bit of oversaturation. Maybe even a feeling of superhero fatigue for some people.
Exactly. It's a double-edged sword. And I think there's a lesson there for anyone who's trying to create something new, whether it's a movie, a book, a song, whatever.
You got to innovate, but you also got to stay true to yourself.
You can't just copy what's already been done. You have
Yeah.
to find your own voice, your own way of telling the story.
And at the end of the day, that's what really separates the great superhero movies from the just okay ones. It's not about the budget, the special effects, or how many things explode. It's about heart. It's about soul. It's about connecting with the audience on a deeper level.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And that's what makes this whole deep dive into the Avengers so interesting, right? We're not just talking about one movie. We're talking about the evolution of a genre, the impact of cultural trends, the power of storytelling.
And as always, the most important part of this whole thing is what you, the listener, take away from it.
Did the Avengers change the way you think about superhero movies? Did it spark any new ideas? That's what we really want to know.
So keep those brains buzzing, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep into the things that fascinate you. That's how we learn. That's how we grow.
And on that note, we're going to wrap things up for today.
That's it for this deep dive, folks. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and keep exploring those amazing worlds out there.